It's 3 a.m., but you're awake. Your phone is dark, your room is silent, and at this point, your brain has already started telling you something is wrong with you because you just cannot sleep. But here's the strange part. Your ancestors would not have found this moment strange at all. For most of human history, waking up in the middle of the night wasn't insomnia. It was just another random Tuesday. You've been taught that sleep is supposed to be one long, unbroken block, an ideal of 8 hours, lights off, and a deep, uninterrupted sleep. Anything else feels like failure. But this idea of sleep is barely 200 years old, and it may not even be how your body is built to work. Let's go back in time. Not centuries, but millennia. Before electric light, before street lamps, before screens, or any of this, night did not mean unconsciousness. It meant something closer to a second, quieter version of the day. Historian A. Roger Ekirch spent over a decade digging through diaries, court records, and medical texts from pre-industrial Europe and found something on almost every page. People described a first sleep and a second sleep, with an hour or two of quiet wakefulness in between. And this wasn't rare or a disorder. It was just how the night worked. During that waking hour, no records mentioned distress. They actually described a routine. People prayed, talked quietly with their spouses, and tended the fire. Some visited their neighbors. Some would just lie there thinking in the dark. Physicians of the time even gave medical advice for what to do in this window because it was so normal. It was written about the way you'd write about a lunch break, not a symptom. So what changed? Light changed. Cheap, artificial, always available light. Gas lamps first, then electric bulbs, pushed bedtimes later, and compressed the night into a single, forced block. Factory schedules demanded one clean shift of rest, not two. And slowly, the idea of sleeping through the night stopped being unusual and started being the only acceptable version of sleep. Waking up became a symptom instead of a phase. Here's where it gets stranger. In the 1990s, psychiatrist Thomas Wehr ran an experiment that quietly rewired what scientists thought they knew about human sleep. He took a group of people and put them in near total darkness for 14 hours a day. No clocks, no artificial light, nothing to do but exist in the dark. No screens, no schedule. Within a few weeks, without anyone telling them to, their sleep split in two. A first sleep of about 4 hours, then a quiet, calm waking period, then a second sleep. On their own, in a room with nothing to distract them, their bodies rediscovered a rhythm their great-great-grandparents would have recognized instantly. Your brain didn't lose this pattern, it just hasn't had the darkness to find it in a long time. But maybe segmented sleep is a quirk of pre-industrial Europe, a cultural habit, not a biological one. So scientists went looking somewhere with no factories, no gas lamps, no history of European nightlife at all. Neuroscientist Jerome Siegel and his team studied 3 modern hunter-gatherer groups still living without electricity: the Hadza of Tanzania, the San of Namibia, and the Tsimane of Bolivia, communities with no exposure to industrial sleep schedules, no bedtime routines borrowed from a factory floor. What they found didn't match the folklore. These groups didn't split their sleep the way pre-industrial Europeans did. They slept in one block, but a shorter one than most modern people assume, often under 7 hours. And they didn't nap to make up the difference. What they didn't have was insomnia. The concept barely existed. Nobody woke at 3 a.m. and diagnosed themselves with a disorder. They just woke up sometimes, and it meant nothing. No anxiety about it. No scrolling or self-judgment. Waking in the night was just a fact of being a body, not a failure of one. So 2 very different data sets point in the same direction. Segmented sleep or not, nothing in the historical or anthropological record suggests waking at night was treated as a crisis. The waking is ancient. The panic looks like the newer part. Think about what that means for you lying there at 3 a.m. Your body isn't broken. It's running software that's been in place for a very long time, long before anyone told it that a single unbroken block was the only correct outcome. What's actually new is the story your mind tells about that moment. 200 years of, you should be asleep right now, pressing down on a nervous system that, for most of its existence, treated night waking as unremarkable. There's a reason this matters beyond trivia. Modern sleep researchers have started asking whether the anxiety around night waking causes more damage than the waking itself. The worry becomes its own event. You wake, And instead of resting quietly, the way a person 300 years ago might have, you check the time, calculate how many hours are left, and feel your heart rate climb. The original waking was neutral. The reaction is what costs you the rest. So what did ancient humans actually do at 3 a.m.? Not much, and that was the point. No catastrophizing. No optimizing. No apps promising to fix what was never broken. Just a quiet stretch of dark, quiet thought. And the trust that sleep would come back around because it always had before. That trust is the part that got lost. Not the biology, not the permission. You don't need to force yourself back into a single unbroken block just because the last 200 years told you that's the only version of sleep that counts. And you don't need to treat a 3 a.m. waking as evidence that something is wrong with your mind or your body. Maybe the most useful thing you can borrow from your ancestors isn't a technique. It's the absence of alarm. The middle of the night was never an empty time to them. It was simply a different kind of time, quieter, slower, unbothered by the idea that it needed to be filled with sleep or fixed with worry. So next time you're awake at 3 a.m. staring at a dark ceiling, remember this: you are not failing at rest. You're just meeting the night the way humans always have, before anyone convinced you it was supposed to look any different.